Have you ever wondered why some people rise, achieve incredible things, and completely transform their lives while others, who seem just as smart and capable, remain stuck in the same place for years? Think about it for a moment. Two people can start from almost the same point in life, with similar education, similar opportunities, and similar resources, yet 10 years later, their lives look completely different. One builds confidence, freedom, and success, while the other is still waiting for the right time, still doubting themselves, still wondering why things never seem to work out. Most people explain this by saying success belongs to those who are more talented, more lucky, or more connected. But if you look closely, that explanation starts to fall apart because you have probably seen talented people waste their potential, intelligent people stay stuck, and completely ordinary people rise to extraordinary heights. So what is really happening? The truth most people never realize is that success is not just about what you do, it is about how you think. Because your mind is constantly shaping the direction of your life in ways you rarely notice. Every decision you make, every risk you take or avoid, every opportunity you chase or ignore, and every moment when you choose to try again or give up begins inside your psychology. Your mind is not simply reacting to the world. It is quietly creating the path you walk on. And the powerful part is this: once you begin to understand the psychology behind success, everything starts to change. You stop believing that success is reserved for a special group of people and begin to see that it follows patterns, invisible mental patterns that guide the behavior of those who move forward in life. Psychologists who have studied high achievers, entrepreneurs, athletes, leaders, and innovators discovered something fascinating again and again. Successful people do not just behave differently, they think differently. Their mindset toward failure is different, their relationship with fear is different, their tolerance for discomfort is different, and even the way they define progress is different, and these small mental differences slowly compound over time. A tiny decision today becomes a habit tomorrow. That habit becomes a lifestyle, and that lifestyle quietly shapes an entire destiny. Most people never notice this process happening, so they assume life is random, that success is unpredictable, and that some people simply have it while others do not. But when you look deeper, you start to see something incredible. Success is not random at all. It follows psychological patterns. There is a certain way successful people approach problems, a certain way they interpret failure, and a certain way they deal with fear, uncertainty, and pressure. And the most powerful realization of all is that these patterns can actually be learned. That means the difference between someone who builds the life they dream about and someone who stays trapped in the same cycle is often not talent, not luck, and not opportunity. It is awareness. The moment you begin to understand how your mind works, you gain something extremely powerful: control. You start noticing the hidden beliefs that quietly limit you. You begin questioning the fears that once stopped you from taking action, and you slowly build mental habits that push you forward instead of holding you back. Suddenly, success stops feeling like a distant fantasy and starts to look like a process you can understand, train, and apply in your own life. And that is why understanding the psychology of success matters so much, because once you truly see how it works, successful people stop looking mysterious or extraordinary and start looking like individuals who learn to master certain mental principles that anyone willing to grow can develop. The brain shuts down possibility before effort even begins. You start telling yourself quiet sentences that slowly shape your reality. Maybe I am not talented enough. Maybe people like me do not succeed. Maybe this goal is too big for someone like me. Those thoughts seem harmless at first, but they quietly build a mental ceiling above your life. A ceiling that limits what you attempt, what you pursue, and what you believe you deserve. Over time, that invisible ceiling becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You stop trying for bigger opportunities. You stop pushing your limits. You settle into a version of life that feels safe, but unfulfilling. The most dangerous part is that this process often happens without you realizing it. Your brain begins protecting the identity you have built about yourself. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, your mind looks for evidence that confirms that belief. If you see yourself as someone who cannot succeed, your brain filters the world through that assumption. Every small mistake becomes proof that you were right all along. But the moment you begin changing that internal belief, something extraordinary happens. Your mind starts working for you instead of against you. So, when you believe that improvement is possible, your brain becomes more willing to experiment, to learn, and to persist. Challenges no longer feel like evidence of failure. They feel like part of the process. This psychological shift transforms effort into energy rather than exhaustion. Think about the difference between someone who says, "I cannot do this," and someone who says, "I cannot do this yet." One statement closes the door, the other keeps it open. That single word changes the entire direction of the mind, because the brain is incredibly responsive to the language you use with yourself. Every thought you repeat strengthens certain neural pathways. Over time, those pathways become mental habits, and those habits shape the way you approach life. If you constantly tell yourself that success is out of reach, your brain will quietly guide your behavior to match that belief. But if you begin telling yourself that growth is possible, that skills can be developed, that effort creates progress, your brain starts aligning your actions with that belief instead. This is why successful individuals guard their internal dialogue so carefully. They understand that the conversation happening inside their mind is not meaningless noise. It is a set of instructions shaping their future. When something difficult appears, they do not immediately assume defeat. They ask better questions. What can I learn from this? How can I improve? Tie-dusted. What is the next step forward? These questions activate a different part of the brain, the part responsible for problem solving and creativity. Instead of freezing in doubt, the mind begins generating solutions. And once you experience this shift, something powerful begins to build inside you. Momentum. Small progress strengthens belief. Stronger belief fuels greater action. Greater action produces bigger results. And those results reinforce the belief that you are capable of more than you once imagined. This cycle becomes a psychological engine that drives continuous growth. But it begins with a decision most people underestimate. The decision to stop defining yourself by your past limitations. Your previous failures do not define your potential. Your past mistakes do not predict your future capability. The mind is far more flexible than most people realize. Neuroscience has shown that the brain constantly rewires itself through experience, effort, and repetition. Every skill you practice strengthens neural connections. Every challenge you face expands your mental capacity. This means the person you are today is not fixed. Your abilities are not frozen in place. Your potential is not predetermined. It is evolving every single day, based on the choices you make and the beliefs you reinforce. The moment you truly understand this, you stop measuring your life based on where you are today. You start measuring it based on the direction you are moving. And direction is far more powerful than position. Because someone moving forward with belief, persistence, and courage will eventually pass someone standing still with talent and doubt. Success does not belong to those who never struggle. It belongs to those who refuse to let struggle define their limits. And when your belief in growth becomes stronger than your fear of failure, you unlock one of the most powerful psychological advantages a human being can possess. You begin seeing challenges not as threats, but as invitations to become stronger, wiser, and more capable than you were yesterday. When you begin seeing challenges as invitations instead of threats, something else inside your psychology starts to shift. You stop chasing motivation and start building something far more powerful: discipline. This is where many people misunderstand the path to success. They believe that successful individuals wake up every day filled with excitement, energy, and unstoppable motivation. They imagine that the drive to work hard appears naturally, like a constant wave of inspiration pushing them forward. But the reality is very different. Motivation is temporary. It rises and falls like the weather. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days you feel tired, distracted, and uncertain. If your progress depends on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. That is why the psychology of success does not rely on feelings. It relies on systems. It relies on habits. It relies on discipline. Discipline is the quiet force that keeps you moving when motivation disappears. It is the ability to act even when you do not feel like it. It is choosing the long-term reward over the short-term comfort. And at first, this can feel difficult because the human brain is wired to chase immediate pleasure. When you scroll through your phone, watch entertainment, or avoid challenging work, your brain releases small bursts of dopamine, the chemical associated with reward and satisfaction. These quick rewards feel good instantly, but they slowly train your mind to prefer comfort over effort. Over time, this conditioning creates a powerful habit loop. Your brain begins expecting easy stimulation, and anything that requires focus or patience starts to feel uncomfortable. This is why so many people struggle to stay consistent with their goals. It is not because they lack ambition. It is because their brain has been trained to seek short-term pleasure instead of long-term progress. But the fascinating thing about the brain is that it can be retrained. The same psychological system that once pulled you toward distraction can be redirected toward growth. Every time you choose effort over comfort, you begin rewiring your reward system. When you complete a difficult task, when you stay focused despite distractions, when you follow through on a commitment you made to yourself, your brain begins associating satisfaction with progress rather than convenience. Slowly, something remarkable begins to happen. The work that once felt exhausting starts to feel meaningful. Discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like power, because discipline gives you control over your direction in life. Instead of reacting to moods and circumstances, you become someone who moves forward intentionally. This is one of the greatest psychological advantages successful individuals possess. They understand that success is rarely the result of a single massive effort. It is the result of repeated actions performed consistently over time. A single workout does not transform a body. A single study session does not create expertise. A single attempt does not build mastery. But when those actions are repeated again and again, they begin to compound in ways that are almost invisible at first. This compounding effect is one of the most underestimated forces in human achievement. Small improvements made consistently create enormous change over time. A person who improves just slightly every day becomes dramatically stronger, smarter, and more capable after months and years of persistence. But most people never experience this transformation because they quit too early. They expect immediate results. When progress is slow, they assume it is not working. Their brain becomes frustrated by the lack of instant reward, and they return to familiar comforts. The psychology of discipline breaks this pattern. It teaches the mind to value progress even when the reward is not immediate. Instead of asking what do I feel like doing today? The disciplined mind asks a more powerful question. What action moves me closer to the life I want? That question cuts through distraction. It replaces emotion with direction. And every time you answer that question with action, you strengthen a new identity inside your mind. You begin seeing yourself as someone who follows through, someone who keeps promises to themselves, someone who moves forward regardless of circumstances. This identity shift is incredibly powerful because behavior always follows identity. When you see yourself as a disciplined person, your choices begin aligning with that image. Skipping effort starts to feel inconsistent with who you believe you are. And once this alignment begins, consistency becomes easier. The actions that once required intense willpower slowly become habits. Habits reduce the need for constant decision-making. They turn effort into routine. Instead of forcing yourself to act every day, you simply follow the structure you have created. This is why systems are more powerful than motivation. Systems remove uncertainty. They guide your behavior automatically. When your environment, routines, and habits are aligned with your goals, progress becomes almost inevitable. The mind no longer fights itself. It moves in the direction you have designed. And the longer you maintain this structure, the stronger your discipline becomes. What once felt difficult becomes normal. What once required effort becomes automatic. This transformation is gradual, but its impact is profound. Because the person who masters discipline gains something extremely rare in today's world: the ability to stay focused on meaningful progress while others are constantly distracted. In a world filled with noise, attention becomes power. And those who learn to control their actions despite fluctuating motivation build a level of resilience that most people never experience. That resilience quietly separates those who dream from those who achieve. Not because they are more talented, but because they continue moving forward long after others have stopped.